We come to it at last, the great battle for your time, for our time. I'm talking about, would you rather be watching Netflix binging all day long or picking up that next great book? Welcome to the reign of books, where the written word reigns supreme. On each episode of the show, we take a look at the book we're reading, the stuff we love, hate, or just kind of indifferent to. And if we hate it, we're going to rip it to shreds. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Then we'll launch into outer space, into the deep, cold, hard vacuum, never to be heard from again. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Preston.
And I'm your only other host, Jonathan Keel. And we have read Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. And at the beginning here, I'm sorry, it's S.A. Corey.
Two people. That's okay. It's just a pen name. It's not a real name.
I'm not sure who Caliban was in this story. They never mentioned Caliban a single time. So nothing about Sycorax. Yeah. But it's a great start to the book, a title that never appeared at all in the story.
Yeah, Caliban, I don't think I saw him make an appearance, not even a cameo. So what is Caliban? I cheated. It's like this literary reference to Shakespeare, half human kind of monster thingy. So if you're a Shakespeare fan, you kind of get the title, I guess. And there was a monster thingy in this book, which is a really scary thing.
Yeah. So tell us all about it.
The Expanse. If people who aren't aware of it, if you're aware of it, you're still listening. If you're not aware of it, well, let us tell you that when you colonize space, this is how you do it. James S.A. Corey basically has the future solar system occupied, and you still got your same human problems. There's a Cold War, which is now turning into a real war, and there's your working class and your aristocrats and all that jazz. Aristocrats is the wrong word, but you have your social elite, everybody on Earth. Nobody has jobs. Everybody can just chill and kind of make good.
That was wild.
Yeah, the whole Earth society. They don't go deep into it, but there's enough world building and context around the main characters to make you love what's being built. And this is book 2, Caliban's War of the Expanse series. And it picks up where book 1 leaves off, which was a killer cliffhanger. We won't spoil it because, go read it if you want to figure out, what's happening in our little backwoods part of the solar system or the galaxy. And it is a backwoods part of the galaxy because, simply put, I think there's something bigger and badder that we have to worry about than our own little human problems. Is that right?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but this book, it's the major plot point or the major frame of the story is basically a rehash of the first book. You've got you don't have a detective who's obsessed with a girl. But you do have a father who's obsessed with finding his daughter, and you have Jules Pierre Mao, who's brought into the story again, who again, while he didn't hire a security agency to find his girl, the father, Prax, does hire a security group or security light group to find his daughter. It was funny when I thought about the major frame or the major structure of the story, how similar it was to the first one. It's just, I would accuse it of being like the Wheel of Time, except it was, good. So,
you evoked.
Shots fired.
Those are fighting words. Any Wheel of Time fans will watch the show. Sorry, we quit the book series.
So yeah, that was the major thing I noticed when we started off. I said, okay, it's a new story, and I even told you when we first started reading it that it did not feel like it didn't feel like it was part of the same story. It felt like a new story set in that universe. It didn't really feel like a continuation of the first one because it just felt so drastically different, but the frame was the same.
I never picked up on that. Basically, you're either sold on the people and the story, and you want to just invest in it and kind of enjoy it, kind of not overanalyze it, or I do anyway. So you just bring up the fact that it's just a different looking for the girl scenario. I just was like, wow, that because the settings, it's not Eros station. It's not the belt. We're now on Ganymede, which is a moon of Jupiter, and we have the big standoff between the Martian Navy and the UN Navy. So I got bamboozled. I mean, I think you're spot on, though. I would agree with you. They use the same frame. Curse! I didn't pick that up.
But it's a brilliant piece of writing. So I'm not really making a criticism there. I'm just saying that frame was the same. Frame was the same.
You're earning your money as a literary critic, and
I'm going to keep
that's
that.
why you're here.
I'm going to keep that. Frame's the same, and I'm sure it'll come up again in other books. But the setting of Jupiter, Jupiter is one of the planets in the solar system. Whenever I get to see a picture of it from NASA, I will stare at it for a while. That planet's so intriguing. So I had these great visuals the entire time.
You're
that I was, yeah. So, yeah.
Well, if we're talking about being smitten with anything in this book, I've been waiting for the show just to start gushing about my new favorite character. Don't get me wrong. The crew of the Rocinante, that's why I care about this story. That's the strength of what they started, James S.A. Corey, the two writers who make up this fake pin person. But they have a great cast, and they added a couple of new characters in Caliban's War Book 2, The Expanse. And I hope Bobbie, our favorite Martian Marine, sticks around like for the rest of the, I think, 10-book series, because if you get me started, I'll get going. But Bobbie really, I think the book opens up one of the, if not the prologue, one of the first chapters of her patrolling like basically the demilitarized zone on Ganymede, because there's UN forces on one side and Martian Marines on the other side. And she's the only survivor of a pretty epically scary battle. It's this one, it's Caliban, spoiler, Caliban basically decimates everybody on the moon's surface except Bobbie. She gets lucky. And that sets up a really intriguing, the story, the mystery. What is this? How did this get out? We thought we killed the protomolecule. Excuse me. The protomolecule is the scary monster alien thing that landed on Venus. And so I love Bobbie. I mean, I just love the character and how they make her. She's forced between two cultures because people don't believe her story. She's kind of like a political pawn. She wants to be a soldier. She doesn't want to play this game of I'm the only survivor from this political ploy you guys are trying to develop, and she might be just at the center of like the next great interstellar war. So I don't just like her as a character. I like the fact that she's put in a really hard situation and she makes some really hard choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bobbie was, I guess I'll call her a true believer. She's a trope or a cliche in that a lot of fiction writers or people that are paying some kind of homage to military forces, and the Marines get this in particular over all the other branches, is they're all portrayed as this, sir, yes sir, that's all they ever do. But that was actually her in this book. But the reality is that it's always a piece of the real military. But at the end of the day, people, they like to take the uniform off and wear jeans and t-shirts and have a personality, and they have their own likes and their own interests. Bobbie was a 100% true believer. I mean, that's what she did. She was a Martian Marine. But I thought, the book took the trope and they went all the way with it, and they did James Corey, that's not they, he did a good job, because even when you had the other scenes of her when she had to go to Earth and all that, she was built like someone who's a true believer, right? All she's doing is working out and training, and didn't have much of a social life. So it followed it through pretty well. But I liked the character development.
I'm sorry. All I can think of is, you want to live forever, you apes.
Yeah. So yeah. That's good stuff. Yeah, another convincing movie. I don't know if that was actually in the book. We've never read that book. But
we're channeling Starship Troopers by the eminent Robert Heinlein. I was about to destroy all my credit, my sci-fi cred, but Robert Heinlein, Starship Troopers. That's where that's from. And
the only name I could think of is the guy that wrote the music for the movie, Basil Poldoris or whatever. I was like, I'm blanking too. All I remember is the musician's name. Hey, the book did have a team.
You're on my trivia team.
The book did have a glaring flaw, though, and this is a serious flaw. And depending on who you are, you'll take it very seriously. This guy kept jumping back and forth between calling them Marines and soldiers. Those are
Ooh.
two different things, and it happened over and over. And I thought, buddy, first of all, soldiers don't want to be referred to as Marines, and Marines certainly don't want to be referred to as soldiers. So just for the record, if she's a Marine, then all she's called is Marine, right? Soldiers belong to the Army. But that is that actually, it's not, again, not really a criticism, but that is a thing that people just don't know. And that in books, even in the media, news, that gets said all the time. They just conflate the two with each other. And okay, sure, they're all ground pounders and grunts or whatever, but they're two different branches, and they mean two different things. So it's kind of funny watching it bounce back and forth. And I was like, make up your mind, guy. What are they?
Those are fighting words, and I did pick up on that. The only reason I knew there was a difference is because I think the Associated Press, when I used to write news, was, the media actually establishes, like, here they're called. There's two different terms for. It's like sailors, right? It's like sailors or marine merchants or whatever. So you don't get them mixed up. So hopefully that didn't destroy people's enjoyment too much.
Oh, no.
But
It's just a minor criticism.
So we got introduced to Bobbie. We have basically all the political stuff going on, which is a big part of the series. And it's really fun because it makes it more believable. Like, the stakes are high. Sure, we colonized new planets, set up new societies that are sustainable, and you have the whole ecosystem, right? But there's still the class divides. And this basically is a story of, like, okay, who's going to get the power now? Because they've discovered the alien. They're now using it as a bioweapon. The protomolecule is it's not working of its own volition. The spoiler again is the fact that humans are manipulating it, and they're trying to make it into a weapon. And I'm like, well, you guys don't learn your lesson, do you? Humans never do. So I really did like the fact that this makes it grounded, but it makes it really interesting because you have, again, your hero, James Holden. He's the hero or the goat, whoever, depending on who you ask, because the guy has a tendency to basically write everybody in the group chat and share to the whole solar system. Here's the bad stuff going on Ganymede, guys. And he just, like, blurts out everything broadcasted across the solar system. He does it again. The frame is the same, as you mentioned on this one. He basically discovers what's going on, and he blasts it out to everybody. And I just think it's really funny. That's his MO, but you got to love the guy. He has a good heart. And I was curious how they bring the Rocinante crew back into this whole interstellar scenario. I mean, how do you get yourself in the middle again of something huge? He was in the middle of something huge on Eros Station in book 1. So, but I found it believable how he got, again, to the center of, like, the biggest fight in the galaxy.
Ooh, okay. So they made, and I love James Holden too. Throughout the story, I liked his character. I liked how he was just tough. And as much as he later on admitted he had fear about the protomolecule from his experience in the first book, he's a fearless individual, right? I mean, there's no doubt. But they made him look like a jackass, for sure. They made him look like an idiot who makes knee-jerk reactions all the time, and he's a one-trick pony. They called him a one-trick pony at one point. And I thought, well, they're not wrong. They being the main political character, Avasarala, she wasn't really wrong. However, I totally disagree with you about the believability of how they got into this. So I have a long note. You'll have to bear with me for a moment. So they, at some point, a scientist, right, the father looking for his daughter, his name is Prax, and Prax mentions a cascade effect at some point. Basically biological ecosystem breaking down, and it's a cascade. This breaks down, and then that breaks down, and that breaks down.
Oh yeah, because it's a closed ecosystem. That was good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, this book at the beginning was just a cascade of coincidence. And so if I can steal Prax's term, but let me just go through. I have a very lengthy note here. Let me just read this off. Okay. I think in the first book, not terribly coincidental that a large ice freighter would receive a distress call, right? And that kind of kicks off the whole thing. They show up to that ship, protomolecules there, kicks off the whole thing. that's not terribly coincidental. You know, that I think in science fiction we all sort of accept that as a thing that happens, and we get our main characters, and that's all great. But in this story, we start following a father whose daughter has a biological problem. She's being studied by a bunch of bad guy scientists, mad scientists, right? And that's fairly specific to start off a story, but okay. All right. Now the Rocinante is sent to see what's going on this moon. Okay, not too coincidental. However, the scientist somehow links up with Holden. Uh and Holden's not really there to help people. He's there on a mission to figure out what's going on. And in his character isn't really set up as someone who just helps random people that have nothing to do with the connection to the bigger picture or his crusade. But he goes, yeah, fine, we'll help you. Random guy reaches out to him in a crowd, and he's like, yeah, sure, we'll go help you find your daughter, and get into some really nasty firefights and just keep going because we're curious. Helping the guy just happens to turn into something much bigger. They had no idea that helping him was going to lead them to discovering, you know, what they were really there to do the entire time. They happened to give Prax a firearm. This guy they knew nothing about, right? He's unstable.
That turned out really good. That turned out
right.
great.
He's unstable. And the thing is, Holden and Amos, they aren't stupid characters, but they just happen to make a stupid decision here that had very life or death consequences. It was just this cascade of I was like, well, would they really have cared about this guy? Holden probably would have been like, hey man, get off me. I'm here to whatever. Right. It was just very coincidental to start off. So I called it the cascade of coincidence. Now, once you got past that first part of the book, everything fell into place, I think, very neatly. But that first part was just, I don't know if it was totally believable. I think it was a little forced. There were a lot of forcing mechanisms to make that story move forward.
All right, I'll concede that you have made your point. And the point goes to the gentleman with the headphones. I
will make it no more.
I can't argue with you on that. I think they said that, you know, James Holden is a kind of a celebrity. So that's how Prax recognized him among all the throngs of people in the chaos on Ganymede, because like you said, the whole ecosystem, which that's really where I loved what you started with, was the fact that they are like, this is not Earth. If something screws up, everything shuts down. So again, you're constantly reminded of the dangers of space. But he did recognize Holden in the crowd because he's a celebrity who basically got famous after he broadcasted or started a war with Mars and Earth, or a couple other human factions, because everybody's got some skin in this game, including the Belters. But I did like the fact that Amos kicked the crap out of that guy who was taking advantage and exploiting all these people's misery.
Yeah, it was
You're
great.
the guy who had the security camera feeds and basically was saying, hey, I want, you know, this, and this, and then I'll give you.
He got the canned chicken treatment.
Amos beat the man with his own chicken, so he got his he got what he was asking for. But the whole point was the guy with the video feeds could find, you know, the breadcrumb trail of where Prax's daughter went to, and that's where the story, I guess, you know, we do kind of set up the story here to like, okay, what's happening? There's a new threat, and he discovers the protomolecule still exists. It's right there on the moon, and Holden kind of flips out legitimately. And this is where I was freaking out, because it's such a communicable pathogen, if you want to call it that. Basically, the filaments get on you, and you're done. You're like biomass, and you become, you know, this alien hybrid. So they discovered it, and he kind of flipped out. I thought the whole thing was comedic and funny and interesting. They found the bad guys eating pizza, and then Prax, he's like, "Where's my daughter?"
Right.
And I thought it was hilarious because, you know, give the guy a gun. What do you expect? He's a scientist. But then they, in short order, they have to get off the planet somehow. They have to go through this secret launch pad, which was convenient. You know, they had the bad guys had the secret launch pad.
None of that bothered me. I was totally on board with that. What you're describing was the best scene of the book. Everything else paled in comparison to this scene when they're going through clearing those tunnels and getting into the shootouts, and the, you know, it was kind of like watching a John Wayne movie or Clint Eastwood movie. They'd walk into certain rooms, and it was this quick draw competition and talking a little smack to each other, and ultimately the good guys blowing away the bad guys in a very very bloody fashion. That was great. However, I would like to highlight that Um, James A. Corey, why
Double-
would you name a security group of former soldiers or whatever Pinkwater? I can
Because Blackwater was taken.
I can exactly. I could get on board with say Redwater. We're in around Jupiter, where we got Mars. You know, those make me think of red. But I was also thinking to myself that what if I were in the future? What if I owned my own private security firm, like a Blackwater? I would call mine Pink Eye. But I just thought Pinkwater was just a little. I don't know. I had a
Maybe
lot of
that's why they didn't make it
I had
out.
a lot of crude jokes I wanted to make.
They
Yeah.
didn't survive, so maybe
No, no, they did. They did.
a
One of them
couple of
did.
them. One of
Maybe.
them.
We don't care though. I know Pink Eye would have survived. That's a
but
survivor.
but that was another coincidence. They found them lurking in the Ganymede, hallway, saying, "Hey, you want to link up? We'll get you off the planet." So that was nice that they had extra firepower to help them out with.
Oh
So
yeah. Now, were you completely satisfied with what they did with the monster? I keep saying they. It's a he. Gosh, John, so out of practice. He did with the monster. I was a little underwhelmed. I was sort of, I don't know. I thought it didn't seem terribly unique. Made total sense. Basically, what I'm saying is I saw it coming. Okay, it's going to be a monster. They finally tried to, make it human like, and I don't know. It just sort of made sense. I wasn't terribly surprised.
well, the fact that the protomolecule developed zombies and took over entire asteroids, this was new in that respect, and the fact that they could communicate like it was
That
a
was neat.
giant, what do you call it, hive mind.
Yeah, it's freaky.
So I actually liked the fact that they were up against something that was fast moving and indestructible. Really, that opening scene where the two contingents of Marines on the UN and the Martian side both threw everything they had at it, and it kept coming in hard vacuum. I was scared. I'm like, holy cow, is this where the story's going? So in all honesty, no, I didn't think, yeah, whatever. I was kind of intrigued about how are they going to stop this thing. So that was my take. But everybody's got their own take on it. And this thing did have a failsafe. It was supposed to have a bomb in it, and that's the only thing that saved Bobbie in the beginning. I mean, now she survived because of dumb luck. Its failsafe bomb blew up before it killed her, and it was going to. Um, and that's when they got off the planet. This fast forwarding to when they got to that launch pad, Alex came to the rescue. He's the pilot, best pilot in the galaxy. Yeehaw! And he's a real cowboy, and he got him off the planet. But they have a stowaway, and I thought that was cool because you know how powerful this monster is, and you're kind of flipping out. If this thing killed all those other Marines, and a monster got off Ganymede, basically Holden is helping this thing survive, and I'm just like, you can't contain this, and now you're gonna die. So I really loved, I didn't have any problems with anything because I was just along for the ride, and so was the monster.
Yeah, clearly the monster was along for the ride. Okay, but you mentioned a couple of things. Well, no, you mentioned one thing that I have a note for, and so I got to combine two thoughts here. One is let's jump real quick over to the OPA. So they go and meet with Fred Johnson after they have their experience on Ganymede, and there's another point I have to come back to. What they're, you're watching Holden, and he's having he's having a crisis basically, but they bring Fred Johnson into the picture. It's a rather tense scene, and then Fred Johnson just goes away from the story. It's gone. It almost felt like, okay, you teased me with it. It seemed like it was going somewhere, and you just never returned to that plot point. It was just gone, which was odd. And I felt the same way about the scene where the monster got inside the ship with them. Pivotal scene. It had some important stuff, but overall, really didn't have much of a bearing on the story. They show up at Fred Johnson's place and he repairs their ship, so it's not like there's any ongoing issue from that. Really, we spent a lot of time in the ship with that monster just to sort of figure out that it likes radiation.
Yes,
But
and they
it
beat it.
just that was really, it was just a very elaborate scene, and that's all you really got out of it. It was, I don't know, I just looked at it like it felt like more should have been done with that.
Well, it was a bonding moment, Prax became part of the
That's
crew.
right. Yeah.
He's like, I can help you guys. I just won't go half cocked shooting around the gun you give me, which you won't.
I just won't stop talking instead.
He earned his keep though, and him and Amos became buddies. We haven't talked about Amos, who is equally awesome because he doesn't like when you hurt little kids, and he'll beat you in the face
Like
if you
that,
do.
yeah.
And they became BFFs. I thought it was cool because Prax needed some kind of, assimilation into the group, and so I got a little bit out of it.
Well, the monster was very restrained in that scene.
Thank goodness. They'd be dead.
Yeah, but again, it just felt out of place to me. But anyway, along this entire story arc, Holden's character is just eviscerated, right? He's having this crisis of he's having this recurring fear from what he went through in the first book. Naomi's over there just dogging on him because he's become this shoot first and ask questions later, which I got the point there, but considering the situation he was in and who he knew he was dealing with, I didn't really take it as a shoot first and ask questions later. He was having to make some very on the spot decisions to keep him and his people alive, right? So it was funny watching him get dogged, but I love the fact that they spent so much time in that character. I mean, you don't get this from a lot of stories. This wasn't just an action driven story. I mean, we were watching Holden grow as a character, watching him deal with problems, not mental problems like he's mentally ill, but just mental vices. We watched the relationship between him and Naomi grow. I thought that was awesome.
No, she dumped him.
Kudos.
That grew in a separate direction. Remember,
well, for a while,
she broke up with him, man.
Yeah,
that's a really good
stay
point.
That way though.
No, Holden also along his character growth, which I think is important to the story. You're right. If he's just going to do the same thing over and over again, I think people might catch up on it. But the fact that the Rocinante got fired, or he got fired from working with the OPA, the Outer Planet Alliance, he basically is his own captain, his own man, and they incorporate and say, hey, everybody gets a share or gets a stake in the Rocinante, our ship, which ships are not cheap in this book. And that's like their baby. That's like their house. So I really love the fact that they came together and voted him as captain. And it was kind of like, okay, cool. We're not working for somebody else. We're just not the cleanup crew to the OPA. And so I was digging that whole like evolution of, okay, what's going to happen next? And that kind of triggered, moving forward and figuring out how do we stop the protomolecule. It kind of was that whatever literary technique to get them to the next act in the book.
Yeah. So don't take my comment about the Fred Johnson scene to mean that I thought it was pointless. It definitely drove the story. I was talking about Fred Johnson.
Good old Fred.
Yeah, he's been a major player. In the first book, he was a huge player, and frankly, he is a major player because he's running the government for an entire region of space. So it's just very odd to me that he really had no part to play in this book other than just getting mad at Holden and firing him. So,
you know what? I cheated and looked at a synopsis, just of all the plot points. He does come in back at the end, and he makes a very critical decision, which again points to the whole it's not geopolitical, but it's solar political system. And we'll get to the end, but he does come back in. But you're right. He's they don't focus on him, and that's fair. I think just because there's so much else going on in the story.
For this one, yeah, I assume that in the third or maybe fourth book, are there 4 books? I know there's a third one, right? I assume there's going to come back around. It'll come back around to him in some way. Has to.
I fooled you into reading this series and you not knowing the investment you're making.
Well, but I did also. I'm still very intrigued that they did. I quit saying they. The author took the time to have Holden confront Johnson about the proto-molecule. I'm not convinced he didn't give that proto-molecule to someone. Right? He says it wasn't me. I don't believe any of that. I don't think the author wasted our time setting that scenario up unless there's something kind of bad with Fred Johnson. Just an assumption.
Yeah, that's not good because everybody's using it as kind of leverage, this alien technology that's essentially caused a genocide on the Eero station. So they kind of have a short-term memory. This thing is really bad. And that kind of hits on the next part of the story, which is trying to find Prax's daughter. It does. The story, like you said, it felt like this weird alliance in the beginning, but this becomes the major driver. Obviously,
Hmm.
more children other than Prax's daughter were taken by this really evil corporation that's willing to use kids with compromised immune systems and merge them with protomolecule to create their own bioweapons. Really evil people. So
Yeah. No, he did a great job. Some real bad guys. Real bad guys.
real bad guys in the truest sense. And that's where I think I like this book. I'm not going to comment on the future story arc of where this goes. I've already started book 3, but this book is squarely focused on how humans are willing to take anything new and kind of use it as a power play to the detriment of any, as long as they can, kind of retain their power. It doesn't matter how many people they destroy or crush under their heel. It's the age old human kind of inherent sin. And Jules Pierre Mao, the corporate evil bad guy, his daughter was a victim of this thing, and he's at it again. And we haven't even talked about how Christian Aversarola, she's the UN undersecretary or the assistant to the undersecretary. She's the major driver of understanding, okay, there's something going on and she's got to stop it because there's government, basically, there's government entities that are willing to create a bioweapon, and she's going to stop it. And that's where Bobbie comes back into the book. Bobbie is used at what, I don't know what it is. It's just a meeting of diplomats from the Martian colony in the UN. And
It's
she's,
posturing. That's what we call it.
yeah, it's the Bobbie wasn't there to actually reveal the truth. She was there as a token witness and like as a hero of surviving. She doesn't feel like a hero or a heroine. She's just like, you know what? Do you guys want to know the truth or not? And but the fact that she gets on Earth, and I love that whole like culture shock that she had, which is
Yes.
why I love her.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I'm going to throw up a picture of another cover of the book while we're talking about Bobbie, just because it's a really cool picture and it's inspiring. But this book's been translated into a lot of different languages. So this is the cover of, I think, some European version. So Bobbie's on Earth and she teams up with Avasarala because she has limited options. It really feels like, some people can call her a traitor, but it feels like she's seeking asylum because she feels Avasarala is the only one who might be interested in the truth. So I really do love, like you mentioned, a true believer that has to make a really hard decision. And this book's not a character study on Bobbie, but I think insofar as the time the author could give to her, I thought it was really well done. Her taking a look at the facts on the ground and her being on Earth, and this being the only situation where she might be able to make a difference, because she can't make a difference as a Marine anymore. They pretty much sidelined her. And so she makes a really tough call and joins the Earth forces. And that's maybe one of the reasons I liked where her character went.
Well, they sidelined her because she wouldn't shut up. Look, in a way, not in a way, she did that to herself. I'd say 75% of them doing that to her was her doing it to herself. So that was honestly, that was kind of tough to read. I hate watching someone just bust up their career because they just won't shut up and sit back and just be patient a little longer. Now, I don't think it was going to turn out where she got her way, but I also don't think she had to throw her entire career away. Of course, that was crucial to the book, right, Ed? But I guess what I'm getting at is, no, he didn't spend a lot of time with her, but it goes to what I said earlier about Holden. The guy really focused on character development in this story. We got a lot of deep perspective into what made her tick and what she was all about and what she cared about, just like we got a lot of deep stuff from Holden. So kudos to James S.A. Corey for the character development, which is sorely lacking, I think, in a lot of the science fiction that we've read. Not all of it. We've tried to pick the really good stuff, but we've read some where you just thought, you're focused on action, and that'd be great for a B movie flick, but it's just not good for a great story. So kudos to him for that. Yeah, I liked the character of Bobbie Draper as well, but she was a bit self-destructive.
I'm going to have to channel another famous Marine. You can't handle the truth. No, you're
Oh, some
right.
Jack Nicholson, huh?
You might be right. She might be a little impulsive, but I still was like, she did the right thing. So,
Oh,
it is.
also, did you pick up on the fact that her power armor had a 2 millimeter gun?
2 millimeter.
Did it not say 2 millimeter? I did the audiobook. Okay, so I had yeah. Was
Tiny.
she firing toothpicks? I was like, what? Oh wow, a 2 mil. I mean, think about it. The typical handgun right now is a 9 millimeter. The standard U.S. military issue handgun is a 9 millimeter, and that's really considered it's not a small bullet, but it's a mid-sized bullet. But a 2 millimeter. I thought, what are we doing with that?
Okay, one more military
She's
reference,
firing.
and
Yeah,
we're gonna hire you as the military consultant on this book. We're gonna have to
done.
say
What's my
hello.
salary? Nothing. The
Wow.
satisfaction of getting to talk about it.
No, but you can be on the credits. You can be on the credits on the show, which I have to just give a quick shout out to the characterization of Bobbie and her Marine unit on the show. They fleshed it out beautifully. So as a film translation, I'm really excited that this book has gotten the treatment it has. This show that we're talking about is on the book, but I just want to mention that, and that brought it to life so much more for me. Um, so back to the plot. The
No, I
big
want to talk about the 2 millimeter cannon some more. What kind of voodoo magic is going on there? That's killing people.
called lasers, man. It's called
Death by
lasers.
1,000 toothpicks.
But Avasarala and Bobbie, they become a dynamic duo. They may be my new favorite characters because she's this old lady, and basically Bobbie's her bodyguard. But she gets trapped. Both of them get trapped on a ship going toward, I think it's Ganymede, but they're basically political fodder. And I'm not sure if they're even expendable. If they're trying to kill them out in outer space, they meaning the UN government or the shadow elements of the government. So the whole thing is really intriguing. And Avasarala, she can hold her own. She may be an old lady
Mm-hmm.
in space, but she can hold her own. And they take over the fancy space yacht. And my favorite part of this whole section is the fact that they can't rendezvous with Holden. Holden's now, he's made some broadcast. The whole system is now, all the chess pieces are in movement. We haven't talked about the bigger, battle about the UN ships going to blockade another Io. Io, they finally figure out is where the bad guys are making their monsters with the kids, and everybody's now, let's go get them. But how can Avasarala and Bobbie get there? They guess what's on the yacht? The yacht has Julie Mao's little racer, the Razorback.
That was neat.
I thought that was
Neat.
beautiful. I really, Julie was she was an idealist, and then she was willing to fight for people who were her own people, the Belters, and she died. So I'll be honest with you, I don't think I got misty eyed, but I just thought it was very poetic that they could help by taking Julie's ship to rendezvous with Holden. Just, yeah, it was neat. Like
You know what I liked about her character? Not Christian Avasarala.
That's a
I
tough one.
couldn't say that name very well. But as we're watching Holden go through his crisis of the mind, and he's thinking, I am so stupid. I screwed everything up. Avasarala was right there to say, yes, James, you are stupid and you screwed everything up. I thought it was great. She just dug that knife in, just kept stabbing. Yeah.
I did like that.
Funny.
Dude, she has a mouth on. She makes sailors blush because I love how she just swears up a storm and she calls it like it is. And that scene with James Holden when they meet again, James S.A. Corey has all of these major characters that you love, and he quickly brings them together. And I'm not going to sit here and dog on any other current contemporary authors who have huge ensemble cast that keeps these casts separated for 10 books at a time just so they can finally bring them together and milk out more of the story. Not going to mention Game of Thrones. But these characters.
Yeah. I'm not going to say the name, but his initials are Robert Jordan. And the Wheel of Time.
So now that we have that out of the way, the elephant in the room, we can usher out, because I think right now talking with you about it, I realize these great characters that we love come together and their fates meet, and they kind of have an opportunity to really do make a difference. And so I don't think it's forced at all. I think maybe I'm just drunk the Kool-Aid, and I love the story so much I'll forgive any flaws. But no, I think it's a really natural synergy in how this comes together, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I might be running out of points. I had no segue there. Hold on.
There's more bad guys in space, dude. These guys don't give up. They dig in. They're like the worst type of people. When they're caught, they dig in. And I'm talking about Admiral Noonien. He's the UN. He's the rogue UN admiral who has the Agatha King, the flagship of the UN Navy, and he's basically in on this ploy. He knows there's bioweapons. He has access to the bioweapons, and he's going to fire on marine ships or a marine fleet and cause another war. So this guy, he's like one of these hawks in the future. He's willing to basically say, all right, I'm in a position to, guide history. And he's going to, pull the trigger right away. I mean, I just really think he's not a two-dimensional character, but he's like a scary character who's not willing to think about the repercussions.
Are you talking about Nguyen?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sorry, I was trying to look at my next note there. I was listening to you and not preparing for what to say next, because honestly I'm not listening, I'm just preparing for what to say next. So it's a joke. Yeah, he was very two-dimensional. He was a legit bad guy. Clearly was involved with the proto-molecule continuing development on Io or wherever they had their other secret labs.
I said all that.
I do feel like, yeah, just bear with me. I do feel like James A. Corey, though, has James S.A. Corey has an excellent
You're never going to get it right, man.
Well, that's why I just started calling him James A. Corey, because I can remember that.
It's double S, no, single S, single A.
He's got.
Keep going. Keep going. It's not George R.R.
George Triple R. Martin. So listen, I'll call him whatever I want. He's got space battle down very well. I really like the realistic view of space battles. It's not the Starship Enterprise that seems to just be able to do whatever. It's not Star Wars where spaceships are flying around like airplanes in the atmosphere. He's really focused on what a spaceship would really be like. I love the fact they shoot torpedoes. They're not necessarily shooting lasers at each other. It's got the PDC cannons or whatever they call them there. The up close firepower that can take out a torpedo. But anyway, I'm just complimenting his space battles.
You called it space battle. That's it. We're going to coin that term. He knows space battle, and I like that. No, you're right. I think the advantage goes to the Marines. So this was like your Bay of Pigs referencing real history kind of standoff. It's like, if you cross this threshold, we'll shoot first, and if you cross this threshold, we'll shoot. And so it's this kind of, what do you call it, in the middle of the Wild West town thoroughfare. You're just staring each other down, and of course, I'm pretty sure the UN guys shoot first, but the Marines take out, or the Martians take out.
The Martians shoot first. That's what got the UN cruisers to turn and face them. Which I think the guy is really, he really sits down and thinks through the fight. I like the tactics. It all sort of makes sense. Nothing is left to coincidence or chance in the space battles. I mean, there's always chance when you're talking about fighting, right? Someone can get a lucky shot, or you're just wrong place, wrong time, or you try something and it didn't work. But he really thinks it out. I mean, at least it wasn't like the beginning where it was just coincidence.
True. But I like the fact that only one ship went down, and that basically turned the advantage toward the Martians, basically the Martian fleet. And so it was really interesting, right? It was really high stakes, and with one ship going down, they got the advantage. And throughout all this, there's a lot of action. I don't want to glaze over the fact that James Holden, he basically launched himself to the Agatha King, the UN flagship, and he encountered a bunch of protomolecule zombies and was flipping out, and he survived that whole ordeal. And Noonien, he was a punk till the very end. He wouldn't release the codes for the bioweapons because he released these protomolecule monsters. he launched little, mini rockets off of Io, and he wouldn't release the code so they could stop him or track him. So who knows how many of these things are in outer space now? So the whole, so he deserved to die. That's all I'm saying. And then James gets off the ship, and yay, we continue on. But that was interesting. That whole segment of like, okay, that happened and I survived it. The guy who's like the scaredest of everybody of touching this icky goo. He had to go on the ship. But yeah, that was the only part where I felt was rushed. But we're getting toward the end of the book, so Bobbie's got to have her own showdown with the monster now.
It was rushed, but it was satisfying. As Nguyen, however you say it, started to monologue, and he was just immediately shot in the face, which I thought was great. I was like, it was very satisfying to me. So dead, perfect. Didn't have to hear him talk because I was tired of hearing him talk.
And that continues. More bad guys get shot in the face.
Look, I may have forgotten something from the first story. The word you just heard me say was a mix between May and Mike because I couldn't make it in my mind. I may have forgotten something. What didn't Holden have to take a bunch of pills like every 6 hours because of the massive amount of radiation he received on Eros? He didn't take a single pill in this story, and he kept going around re-radiating himself. It was a little odd. Did we just forget about that plot point, or was it only Detective Miller, that had massive?
He had to have meds, and he took his meds. He just did it in his bathroom while we weren't watching.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Yeah. I thought maybe I missed that. I skipped over the bathroom scene. Right.
That was good stuff, though. The fact that they didn't spare their hero. He basically is on radiation medicine the rest of his life, unless he wants to grow a tumor. And Miller didn't make it. Miller is going to make a cameo, just like Fred Johnson at the end, or Fred Johnson will come back. Miller will make a cameo, which I loved. I'm not going to lie to you. I loved Detective Miller. The fact that he died in the first one, I was like, wow, this is like Game of Thrones. Everybody dies, but not really. I mean, but he is one major character. So
yeah, I feel like Corey kind of backed it off a little bit. He's like, we're not going to surprise you by killing off every major character that we introduce at some point that you get invested with, but we will just screw them up real bad.
and that they do.
Good enough, but they'll still be with you.
I was worried Bobbie wasn't going to make it, but we do make it down to the moon of Io. And of course, there's another monster because that's where they're making the monsters. And Bobbie studied her video footage from her gun camera, and she knew how to, move perpendicular, and she knew how to move and shoot like a good Marine and or soldier.
Oh, and can I jump in real quick? Yeah. Just keep mixing those two up. That's perfect. I every time they describe Bobbie, I just kept thinking of Futurama when they went to the planet with the Amazon women, and it was death by snoo snoo. Because the sexual tension between her and every male she ran across was mentioned every single time she met some new male. It was always the guy sizing her up and her looking at him like, don't think about it. And yeah.
I have to watch that episode. Thanks for the reference.
Yeah.
I like how she, did kind of blow everybody off and said, I'm a Marine, get out of my face. She's the one who essentially the only Marine who could take them on. Again, shout out to the show. I love the battle that they had when she had to fight the monsters. A really good battle in the show. And in the book, it was equally good because this thing got smarter and this thing ejected. She thought she had it, she thought she basically outmaneuvered it, and it ejected its own self-destruct bomb, threw it in her face, and it blew up in her face. And so I'm cutting straight to the end where, they fight, they shoot at each other, and she loses, and you're thinking, Bobbie's dead. How's she going to get out of this? But the thing comes up to her and tries to infect her, right? It tries to give her a sloppy, gooey kiss. I'm like, oh, thank goodness it didn't try to kill her. And obviously it can't get through the armor, and then her gun cannon comes back on and she blows away.
It started to get a little pervy there. It was talking about things protruding from the body and for poking around, and I was like, yeah, you kind of...
Alien did that way before.
Mm-hmm.
Alien started that whole, weird alien stuff. But she survives and blows it away, right? Point blank range, right? So we're talking about blowing bad guys away right in the face. Amos gets with toothpicks. The 2mm gun cannon. And then fast forwarding, just with all the action on Io, Amos gets his chance to blow a bad guy away at point blank range, and deservedly so, because this is the bad guy, the doctor who steals little kids, and Amos gets to finish him off. Yeah, just to kind of run through that whole segment. but I love that.
No, yeah, there were many satisfying scenes in this book. Although I felt the action on the ground, that was on Io, right?
Yeah, they're on
That
IO.
was very, very second fiddle to everything else in the book. I honestly expected that to have a lot more to it. But it was, like you said about another part, very rushed, which was fine. We didn't waste any time. But yeah, just not what I expected.
Was it believable? I'm honestly conflating what I saw in the TV series, which made it a little bit more heartfelt because Jules Mao, he gets to meet the kids. So yeah, I'm honestly trying to mess things up by talking about how good the show was, but the book kind of it had closure because the father found the daughter, and that was more emphasized in the book. And it was satisfying because this father, his life would have been over, and he really what parent gets reunited with their child, especially in such a time of crisis. So yeah, sure, the big meta stuff was a little rushed, the macro level plot, but I love the human element and the fact that they were brought back together. Surprise, the kid survives. Not all the kids survive. So James S.A. Corey, that writer, what a monster, killing little kids. But it shows you the collateral damage in this story and the stakes.
Yeah. So you said you started reading the third book,
Oh
and
yeah, sorry.
I'm very curious at this point. What does he do now? Who has the protomolecule now, and what are they trying to develop with it now? What's the new thing we have to fight now? So I'm hoping the third book takes a bit of a different turn. That way we don't just keep rehashing the same story. Also, I had a huge laugh at the expense of this book when they launched a bunch of those monsters into space at 20G headed towards Mars. I thought, okay, look, I get it. They're going to land on Mars and there's no stopping them, but these things are traveling at 20G, and can they slow themselves down? Because when they smash into the surface, it's just going to be vaporized, right? It was the goofiest thing I have ever heard. They launched organic, physical, non-munitions, let's just say that, as a weapon against the planet. If you've had a ship in orbit and dropped one down and somehow it survived that, okay, but that was just the most ridiculous thing. I never took that threat seriously. I thought it was goofy. I was highly irritated that he did that.
All right, you're hired.
He should have come up with something totally different to threaten Mars than to shoot 20 of those things at it. Anyway, I'll quit going on. Ridiculous.
You're the book's new military consultant. And
that had nothing to do with military stuff. It was just ridiculous.
Non-munition. Yeah. No, you threw out the word non-munition.
Oh, right. Oh,
you kind of sold
good.
me as a consultant.
This is an interview. I got the job.
But you know what? I would defend James S.A. Corey's decision there because they would have come up with some way to decelerate these monsters going toward the planet. Otherwise, it's an extinction level event. But remember in the first book, they talked about the Belters. All the Belters had to do was throw a couple of rocks. And I found this funny. It's just like, throw some rocks at Mars fast enough and it'll kill them. They don't need nukes or anything. They can just, be like the guys, just the mass, the mob, like, stoning them from outer space. So anyway, you got a good point there. That was something that was kind of left hanging. But then Fred Johnson, he basically comes back saying, I'm another power player. I have nukes. And he nukes some of those protomolecule monsters somehow. I think the beacons come back on and they can locate them. And he nukes them. And that freaks everybody out because the OPA has nukes. And so Fred Johnson, again, the butcher of something. That was his moniker. I forgot it already. Anderson Station. The butcher of Anderson Station.
You've sidelined him in your mind, just like the author did.
Yeah, I did. He comes back and things get complicated. So, but John, you're going to have to trust me. Book 3 takes a totally different direction. And that's all I'll say. So I don't think you're going to get a rehash.
Josh, I trust you.
That's
actually what I want to see is what's going on Venus. They tease that the entire book.
We forgot about Venus. That other
they teased it and teased it and teased it, and I thought, well, can we? The only meat we got from any of that was these things can instantly communicate across vast distances in outer space. which is a really incredible concept. But we've gone 2 books now, and I have no better idea of what the proto-molecule is, what it's meant to do, where it came from, than I did from when I started the first book. And
But that's okay,
and
because
Julie
now,
Mao found it in the ship. I have no more information.
but it's what's the important part is that Naomi and James are back together.
That's right. At the end of the story, whether Prax found his kid or not, whether Avasarala is assassinated or not, Jimmy and Naomi are back together. By the way, James A. Corey, you listen. Don't have Holden walk in there and tell her that I screwed everything up. You were totally right. I was totally wrong. He is never going to get out from under that now in that relationship. Every time they have an argument, she's going to bring it up now. Remember that time you were wrong about everything?
Okay.
What's he doing?
Dude, I'm
Don't do that to this guy. Don't do that.
I'm stepping away from this argument because I don't think we can't win that one. I don't think I can win that one. So anything else you want to mention about the amazing Caliban's war with monsters and marines and, back evil people in the solar system? Because that's it. That's the story.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it was we didn't spend much time with the way Bobbie was hired on. I thought that was all rather intriguing. I really enjoyed that part of the book. The fact she got moved out from under the Martian military and assigned to Avasarala.
Yeah, she's a Marine attaché. She's still a Marine attaché and a Marine citizen attached to the U.S. or UN embassy, I guess.
But they didn't really follow up at the end about what is going on with her status as a Martian, right? Now those Martian warships cooperated with her. That was good, and I'm guessing the relationship goes positive from there. But I did enjoy that part. I liked them sorting out that traitor in Avasarala's office. Overall, Bobbie was a fun character. So. There are some other areas of the book that I thought were really intriguing, but I think we've covered all the major plot points, and I've gotten out most of the sarcasm that I had built up over the course of the story. It's a brilliant piece of writing, and despite any ways that I pick at it, I have nothing but praise for this book. Really, if someone talked to me about it, I wouldn't sit there and go on about the things that irritated me. I would praise it. It's very much worth your time to read.
Yeah, it sits in a unique spot in the series. Knowing what comes next, I think it was necessary to set up the different factions of humanity and how they're reacting to the proto-molecule. So on a very serious note, we have a lot of players and we know their capabilities and we know where their self-interest lie. And I think things are about to radically change. If, like any good story, you have an outside threat, people are forced to maybe come together. But right now we're just seeing everybody doing some very selfish stuff that's really continuing to screw up the solar political status of the human race, right? There's still factions, but we'll see where James S.A. Corey, for the record, that's the name.
Oh, we finally got it right.
We'll see where the story goes. But thank you, John, for bringing up very prescient points for your military consultancy. Hopefully that lasts through the entire series. And they only have one more book. I'm really happy the series is ending insofar as there's the end of a book series that we can complete. I don't want them to end it, but I think they're going to finish this year in 2020 at book 10. And we are in for the long haul. No quitters here. And that goes for the producers of the show. Please keep watching the show so we can see the conclusion of that baby. But anyway, that's all I got. And that's us, the Reign of Books. I've been Josh. I'm always Josh. And if you want to know more about all the things we're doing, it's on this little website called reignofbooks.com. Rain as in the rule of books, not the weather. Take care.
Oh, Naomi, you were so right. I'm so wrong.